All right. Hey guys, welcome back to the Meshery development call. So to get things started, let's begin with introductions from newcomers. Okay, I don't see newcomers. Abhinav, is this the first time you're attending the Meshery development call?
Yeah, this is the first time in development meeting.
Please give us a brief introduction.
Yep, I'm Abhinav from Kolkata, India. I'm currently in my third year of a BTech, and I'm a full stack developer. I came across Meshery when I was just exploring the projects in the Linux Foundation, and I found that Meshery stack is well aligned with my skills, and I like how welcoming this community is, and just that's all.
Awesome. Welcome to the community. Any other newcomers? Nope. I don't see any other newcomers. So let's get started off with the minutes then. So first off, yeah, I placed my topic in the beginning because I host these calls. So I'll go over my topic really quickly. So the catalog on meshery.io, the patterns catalog, we did some. I did some code refactoring here. Uh, there was a lot of redundant code. There still is a lot of redundant code. There's an open effort. I think Aditya, Narayan, Subedy is working on it to refactor some more code over here. So now we've moved on to individual pages so that it's easier for us to share these patterns with people. Now we have chips which also do filtering. So with these chips, you can filter these, go back to and these chips are also clickable. These are some of the changes that I made. Other than that, in the last call, we had decided to add the date when it is published on and the author's name. Right now, all the patterns are published by us, so the author name is Leah5, and it appears that the date is not working. The date gets updated every day, so that's a bug over here. If anyone wants to fix that, or I'll fix it myself. So yeah, these are just some of the updates. Other than that, Aditya is working on a couple of more things. Also in mobile view, the filters were not visible, so I added that in as well. So yeah, these are just small updates. Any thoughts, any feedback?
Yeah, I'm curious just as to when there might be like a configuration for Istio with Spire posted here. That would be great. Okay, just curious.
Soon, I hope. Any other feedback, comments?
I guess the filters in the mobile view should be collapsible. Like it's taking up too much of space in the height.
Yep. Okay. Moving on then. Moving on, we have Ashish with a small demo. Ashish?
I just joined. Just give me 1 minute. If someone else wants to go before me,
Okay, you skip over your topics and then come back. Okay.
yeah. So,
Harkirat, would you like to share your topic?
Yeah, just wait. Hey, is my screen visible?
Yep.
So I was working on this issue. Previously, we were not having like it was coming deploy a service mesh. So Lee had an issue, so I was working on that. For me, it's working fine. Like you can see that. So any thoughts on this? Are you able to see this?
Yep.
Yeah. The state has been changing. on my side.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was probably something on my system. That's why it was not working. That's awesome. If it works, then good. Any feedback on that? The message says that no meshery adapters are running, and when the adapters start to run, the adapters appear.
Yeah, Aditya, there's this thing, cache, like on your local system. Sometimes you have to empty it in order to.
I did empty my cache. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, great. By the way, so there's a ton of sarcasm that flows through the community, but if some of you are picking up on that, so feel free to dish it out, Excuse me. If you're the recipient of sarcasm, that just means you're being loved on. So just wanted to state some of the ground rules. Also, I wanted to call out this particular contribution. I think Mr. Singh, this is your first contribution, at least to the Docker extension.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, good. Yeah, we're gonna have to have I'm surprised at this point we have all kinds of rituals in this community, and I'm surprised we won't have like a first commit ritual. But suffice to say, fantastic. I wanted just to make sure that everyone had context for what's going on here, and so Meshery is available as a set of containers to deploy. There's a server, any number of service mesh specific adapters. There's a CLI. There's a few components. We should probably share a link to Meshery's architecture. It's fairly well documented. There's a number of components within there. And this particular one is, well, it's a deployment model, the Meshery Docker extension, which we just got statistics from our partner Docker yesterday about how many people have been using the extension. I'll bring those up and share those. But I just wanted to give a little bit of context as to what this particular issue, this fix was for, is for the Docker extension. And it really shouldn't ever be the case that there would be an empty state when the Docker extension for Meshery is deployed. It's deployed as a Docker Compose application. So it's Meshery server and a number of service mesh adapters. Should any one of those adapters not be pulled, the container image not be pulled or not start, the behavior, unless I'm mistaken, the behavior within of Docker Compose is to fail the start of the extension, is to fail the start of the Compose app. And so for the most part, I think we're just covering our bases here to help ensure that should there be an issue with one or more of with all of the adapters starting, actually. So Mr. Singh, there's no consideration in the code currently for potentially like 3 of the adapters starting and a subset of them not starting. Is there any logic in there to potentially handle that? I suspect not, because that's kind of an unfair question because that wasn't part of the issue description, but it's just feedback for you to think about. If that's an easy enough check to make, that then you could visually indicate in the UI that a particular adapter is unavailable, is like disabled. And so.
Right on that, like new issue and
Nice. Good. So your voice wasn't audible, but I tell you what I heard was, Lee, that was great feedback. Thank you so much. I would love to add that additional feature. I'll have that for you by the end of the call. And so thanks a bunch. Good. Yeah, great. Perfect. Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks, Aditya.
Right. Thank you, Harkirat. So we'll move back to Ashish. Ashish, you ready?
Okay. Assuming I'm audible. So, and also you can see the right screen. So you're seeing the applications page, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I have two items on my agenda. One of them is the additional feature that I've added, that is importing Helm charts as meshery applications. So just to give a little bit of context, we have meshery applications is an umbrella term for your Kubernetes manifest, Helm chart, and your pattern files and Docker Compose. So anything that can describe your infra is covered under application, and slowly we are expanding upon what are the things that we support. So currently I've added this. There are some UI considerations which I would talk about, which we can talk about after I demo the thing. But let me give you a demo. So when you import an application, currently it allows you to import a file that can be a remote file, that can be linked to a GitHub repo, a particular file, and or you can pass a file from your local system. So there are two options available right now, and currently I will demo by passing the download URL that of the tar file of that particular Helm chart. Also, I have added the feature of basically importing your local Helm repo, but how that looks on the UI we can discuss after this. So just for example, this is the Prometheus community index.yaml of their Helm chart. So I have taken this one alert manager, for example, and I'll try to import this. Basically, this is the same link with which you would download a Helm chart. So after that is successfully imported, you can see this thing comes up over here. And this is nothing but this gets converted into your regular K8s manifest. So you have your service, your deployment, and your service account, etc. Anything that is required for deploying this alert manager. Okay, now one other UI bug kind of thing I wanted to point out is, okay, so first thing is that when I'll click deploy, a modal would not come up. On the contrary, when I would click deploy in the other demo that I'm going to do right now, inside of the mesh map designer, the modal would come up. So that is one thing to note. Second thing is that even though the deployment would be successful, I would not get the snack bar over here. I won't get any error, but still I won't get this successful snack bar. So that is two things to keep in mind. So like click on deploy, and as it gets successfully deployed, okay, so again, I did not get a snack bar. It should have said application successfully deployed. So I've deployed my alert manager. Now, if I go to my mesh map visualizer, I should be able to see my Prometheus alert manager. So opening up the visualizer, if I filter out my default namespace, here you can see this. This is the alert manager that I just deployed using my Helm chart. So I just use the simplest example. So that was the first demo that I want to do, and simply you can, once you have imported that as an application, you can also undeploy that. So I think first we can discuss upon this thing, then upon the UI of importing a local Helm repo, and then I can move on to the my other topic, which is the Istio and Spire design. So yeah, I can undeploy like this also. So yeah, there's a modal needed here, as well as so for example, right now when I click on import application, if I upload a file, this is not like a job of backend. UI goes and downloads that file from your local system, and that basically sends the text, it in plain text over to the backend. So that works with the files. But when we talk about directories, you cannot send it in a text. You have to give the path, and the backend has to have the logic to manage that path, or basically to use that path in order to do its stuff. So how do we want to do that? How do we want to allow users to give the path to their local Helm repo here? Or do we want to use the same URL page just using the file : like this one? So that, do we want to use this method, or do we want to have something else? If someone has any suggestions, or
I think if it is something related to file, then of course the file manager, is better.
yeah, but I meant by that I passed the index dot, the basically location of index.yaml, and although that also does make sense right now. So yeah, it shouldn't be a file, it should be a folder. So it shouldn't be a file. It's basically a directory. I have to give the path to a directory to backend. And the logic that we have right now in backend, it expects you to give that path inside of the path. We already have that path key. So inside of the path key, if you just give /home /something, it would go ahead and import that from there. But yeah, right now we're not using path field here. Either we are directly, when I click on upload file, we are directly extracting the manifest and sending it over, or we are using remote URI. So for what should be a better user experience.
So yes, when you upload it, you're saying the UI itself fetches the file.
Yeah. When you upload a file from your local system, the UI itself fetches the file, and then it sends over to the backend the plain text.
Oh, what happens when you put the file name in? Same thing.
When we what? The
When you
file
just put in the file name
where?
on the upload file, the text box on the upload file.
Okay, I think yeah, I'm not sure. I just click on, maybe that also takes the path. Or Abhi, can you clarify on this? Does that also take the path, or what's the effect of having a browse? Because I usually use just browse like this. So if I do this, this would be imported. Uh, yeah. So right now I'm just
Gives
using
you
browse.
file con. Uh, yeah, when you upload something from the file, then it gives you the content inside file, like send the content inside file to the backend.
Yeah. That I already know. What I'm asking is that inside of this file name dialog box, do we give the explicit path, or what does this take as an input? I don't think it takes anything, because even if I write anything to it, I still have to click on browse. So
basically that text field is supposed to get filled in by the file name.
okay. So this would be this would be the content of that file.
Yep.
The location actually. So you can just do browse and select any file, random file, for example, test1.yml. Yeah, open from right. New Mac users.
It just uploads it, takes me back to that applications page.
So yeah, so actually it is supposed to behave something like what we just discussed, but yeah, it's not behaving the way, but it is successfully uploading a file. So it needs some UI enhancements for sure.
Okay. And also, like when we click on browse right now, this only allows you to select files, right? Can we use the same browse to select a entire repo? And if someone selects a folder instead of file, instead of basically going ahead and getting the raw data of that file, just if it's a folder that is being imported, just take the path of that file and put it into the path key and then send it over, because we would take.
Okay. I think you can also select the directory from the browse. So you have to provide an extra parameter that can accept browse. Yeah, just like this, you can't open it. When you will be providing an extra parameter that can accept the directory name. So you will be able to open any directory from that button. And I hope, like I haven't seen yet, but I hope it will return back the correct file location that user just chose. So
Okay,
I think
so
you just need that, right?
yeah, the location of the directory itself.
Mhm.
So we can put a pin on that. So basically, the backend supports it. I've demonstrated from the URI thing, and this can be a separate issue into. There will be basically two issues. One is the enhancement of this particular modal, and the other one is the when you click on deploy, you should get the same modal as you get when you are on designer. So okay, so that was importing your Helm charts onto this. Also, you can import Docker Compose and other things. The second part of my demo was Istio and Spire Design. So yeah, before I get into this, there are a few caveats to be noted. Is Nithish on the call? Uh, okay, yeah, Nithish is on the call. So there are a few issues right now. very minor issues that can be that I have made a kind of hack over to make the design work. But that's we would be basically we can fix that thing before the weekend. There is some problem with custom resource definition and all. So I have created a basic design. This is the somehow I designed it, so it didn't save. So that's one of the bugs as well. Sometimes I design stuff and I expect it to save, but like for example, it says saving. So if I come back to it, yeah, it's kind of in a stale stage. Okay, whatever. I can prettify it using this thing. Using let's okay. So this is my Spire design, and I have created this using just by importing the Istio+Spire YAML that they provide in their demo. That they basically this is the quick start.yaml you can find on their website. So if I wait a second, the Zoom chat thing is coming in front of my deploy button. So hold on a second. Yeah. So yeah. So there would be a false negative over here. Basically, a snack bar would come that would say there is some TCP connection error. I would look into that. That's not an error that shouldn't come, but bear with me for when that happens. Okay, so yeah, this error is shouldn't be coming. So this is some network problem or something else. I got this error like 1 or 2 hours ago, so I'll have to see. But yeah, this does get deployed successfully. And if I come over to the visualizer, and if I go to my Spire namespace, yeah, so the workload registrar is the Spire server, and the other stuff that comes up with the basic quick start Spire Istio design. This stuff got deployed in my Spire namespace along with things like daemon set and your config maps that are required to for different purposes. Yeah, so and you can similarly you can undeploy it using you can basically have the same design and you can undeploy it. And I again you'll get that false error over here, but again ignore that for a while. So stuff is still getting slowly. Yeah, namespace gets destroyed in the last year, so the namespace is no more as well. So that stuff got deployed. So you can use this right now. If you try to deploy it, you might get one error, which I was talking about at the start of this particular demo, which would be fixed by Nithish by tomorrow or maybe today. And then you can use this particular design. Yeah, so that were my 2 demos. Does anyone have any question or anything?
Hey Ashish, Max here. First of all, thanks for the invite, and it's great to see this live. Thanks for demoing. Yeah, pretty cool, pretty excited to see this. I'm wondering if you have encountered any issues while converting this to a pattern from the Helm charts.
No, it was pretty straightforward to do that.
Pretty straightforward. Awesome. Good to hear that. Yeah, because we are still working on the Helm charts that we share with you and the team, and Natalia, who's with me, is also part of the team, and she gets more involved than myself on that work. So it's great to have that feedback. Awesome. Thanks for them with this. It's amazing.
Oh man, yeah. I think I'm so excited that I'm stumbling over my words. This is great. Ashish, do you mind recapping for my benefit, for everybody's benefit, some of how these same capabilities, so you're using the UI to import a Helm chart, get it converted to a Meshery app, then be able to visually diagram it, make some changes, understand how it's, the particulars of it. The UI is one client, the CLI is a different client. What does that look like to perform these same operations from the CLI? If you would indulge me. Off of mute, even.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so you mean the app onboard command, right?
Yeah, or the pattern import, the application import, I don't know what yeah, whatever they are.
Yes. Yeah, so the app onboard works just fine, and there are some bugs over there which would be solved. There is an open PR by Rituraj that actually solves a lot of stuff there, and the pattern apply works as usual, of course. But yeah, the app onboard, the bugs in the app onboard that even Aditya was facing, like Aditya, you tried to import some manifest, right? So it doesn't matter if you like if you do meshery-ctl app onboard and you give it a Docker Compose or any other file, it would be imported just like you would expect it from the UI side. And the bug that was there, it would be fixed by Rituraj.
Nice. So do you recall, is it a two-step procedure? So if, let's say, so we've got a Helm chart, we'd like to use the CLI to ingest the, to basically programmatically, or someone might want to, anyone can go use the REST API to perform the same actions that the UI just performed. Good. So if someone wants to write a script or use their favorite programming language to do that, they can. Or they could use the CLI meshery-ctl which is also using the REST API. They would, do you recall, would it be, is it a two-step? I just don't recall. Like,
It is a two-step process. It first imports, but like the first operation is similar as the import application, and then it tries to deploy it.
Okay. And then, okay, great. Cool.
So if you say meshery-ctl app onboard, and if you give it a specific name, for example, if right now if you do meshery-ctl app onboard test3.yaml or some name that is already there in the provider that you are using, then it would use that particular file. Otherwise, if you give it a path, it would whether it's a remote path or a local path, it would download it on, basically import it here and then try to deploy that. So yeah.
Gosh. Okay. I'll go refresh my memory inside the CLI reference.
Yeah. Same here.
So, sorry, a quick question, more guidance on how to use patterns. Let's say you have an Istio deployment already in place, and you only need to configure it to add Spire, or the other way around, you already have Spire and you want to deploy an Istio and have them consuming Spire identities. How would you recommend doing that? Will that be two different patterns, or is something that you can import a single pattern and change it?
Yeah, actually, it would be recommended for it to be a single design. So, for example, if it's the part of the same design, then for example, right now, if I go over to the design configurator, we already, whatever services that you have inside of your design, you can add extra stuff onto that. So inside of designer, if I open the same design that I had opened, you can. Right now, you won't be seeing some Istio components because I don't have the Istio adapter running right now. But here you would see your Istio components, and you can add those Istio components on top of this design. And being part of one design would be it's kind of, although they can be separate, and that wouldn't affect much. But since we on the designer we do a lot of referential stuff, and in a single design one thing can reference another, and so like we are going to use state machines and all to actually basically some particular field of one service can be referred back to another service. So if you have a Spire and Istio deployment, that can be the case that maybe, let's say, while configuring your Istio, you need to give it something that is dependent upon something that you had already configured in Spire. So in that case, it would be recommended to for them to be on the same design, so that you can do all those things.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, Maxi, that's a great question. And I think ultimately the answer comes down to a little bit of it depends on the behavior. Like much of what I think Ashish just said is like this system, Meshery as a system, doesn't necessarily, I don't think there are things in here that are necessarily going to would matter to Meshery, whether you've got an existing Istio deployed and you don't want to reconfigure it. That's certainly a core use case. Do you know, are there any particulars where an Istio deployment would need to have the Spire configuration from the, like, I can imagine that you need to have the Spire configuration from the very start, before you onboard. But
yeah, right. In a standard deployment, you need to have Spire first to of course get the identity for the Spire Istio components. But I'm thinking more on an upgrade path to those who are not using already.
Or maybe they've got an existing deployment and they've got services running. They're going to stand up another instance, or they're going to replicate that, play with it. They want to retroactively apply it. They know that they've got to cycle identities and stuff. And so, yeah, it would be fantastic to have ultimately kind of two artifacts, two patterns, one full Istio plus Spire, another one just the Spire portion of the config to apply to an existing.
Also, inside of patterns, we have a feature of depends on, which actually helps to create a directed acyclic graph as the time of evaluation. So, for example, right now, while I'm going over this particular installation page, it says that, okay, so after you have deployed Spire and everything is in ready state, then you do this extra stuff. So in this particular case, what you can do is you can combine all your on the designer. So I'll come on the designer just so that you can have reference. So on the designer, what you can do is all your Spire related stuff that needs to first be in the ready state. You can combine that into a single. So like you can have that into a single node group, and basically so that you can package all these things together. And then after that, let's say that the documentation says you have to deploy an Istio operator. You can go over to your basically you can go over here, click on Istio, select Istio operator, and then using the depends on field, you will be able to make sure that first that node, everything in that node group gets deployed, and after that is deployed, then your other stuff is deployed. So basically you can make relations between separate stuff into the same thing, or you can first deploy this thing and go to the visualizer and check when the things are ready, and then come over here again, click on Istio, which it's not here because again I don't have the adapter right now, but again you can come over here and then continue with the process.
Awesome.
Yeah, by the way, just to repeat that again, like halfway for my own benefit and for everyone else, is we're talking about a fair bit of reusability of these designs, of these patterns. And actually that's in part what sort of differentiates a blank canvas, a design, from a pattern, which is more like best practice and kind of a supported thing. So that's kind of an interesting journey that you start with a Helm chart. In this case, like you start with a Helm chart, you import that to become a Meshery app. So it's just kind of a verbatim, not a verbatim, but it's a direct translation from Helm to Meshery app. From there, you can just deploy to Kubernetes. You can load it up and visualize it as an app and not make changes. So again, it's just still an app. Or to the extent that you want to augment that, use a visual designer to augment your original Helm chart design. That would be, you can name that design, that new Meshery design, that new pattern, you can name it, version it, make changes to it. And then, yeah, have that whole design as a drag and drop, reusable building block, so to speak. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, for me as a user, it's like, okay, great. What if I want to go back to Helm? Like for whatever reason, I use the visualizer to do the hard stuff of like redesigning and reconfiguring something, and then, but my CI process does something else, or for whatever reason, you need your Helm chart back. You want to update, you want to make an update on artifacthub.io. Yeah, the ability to export to rehydrate sorry, to dehydrate, so to speak, back to Helm chart. That would be, or to any of the original. So I think Meshery retains the original artifact.
Yeah, it does.
And then you can export. Today you can export designs and share those between Meshery systems. I think the re-export back to Helm chart, it would be a feature request, and it would kind of come with some caveats that you might expect if you're using Meshery to, if there's anything you've included in your design that Helm couldn't describe, or that you couldn't describe in a chart, then there might be an issue. But anyway, some kind of an interesting thing, kind of worth exploring. One thing that I want to say out loud is in the applications table, at least for my part, I'd be curious for feedback from everyone else if whether or not people consider that the originating artifact, so whether that's a Docker Compose file, a Kubernetes manifest file, or a Helm chart, if it would be helpful to the user to have a column that shows the type of original format that application was, that might.
Yeah. So it's a choice between whether we want to intelligently do everything, or we want to give the users a way to tell us that what is the specific format that they're importing. So like something go drop down or something over here, from which they can select format.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But actually, yeah, that's great. But actually, either way, whether Meshery dynamically determines what file type it is, or whether a user is designating the type that they're uploading, either way, to show that back in the table as a column.
Yeah.
The other thing, I wasn't really paying attention before, but I can't help but put in my 2 cents, is if you guys are talking about like file path based uploading of like referencing and stuff, is like, hey, forget it. Like it's just an HTTP URL that's accessible, or a file picker. And maybe there was something more to that and you don't need to explain it, but just those 2 things are the only 2 things that really need to be supported today. Just consistency across the designs, filters, and applications.
Yeah, actually the only reason for that,
Okay.
for the reason I brought, okay.
Yeah, thanks though, but yeah, okay. Cool. So Natalia, so Maxi, thanks for the feedback. Can't wait for this to get into your hands and to Natalia's hands. Natalia, to put you, welcome to the call. Nice to have you. To put you on the spot, any initial thoughts? Things that you think won't really like?
Great.
Nice. Yeah. Good. Fair enough. Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you, Ashish. Thank you, Aditya.
Moving on, then thank you, Ashish. So next up we have Aditya, Narayan, Subedy with the dashboard updates.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. So I made some changes to the dashboard. It was required to, like, we changed the sidebar color. So I set the sidebar color to one of the like theme colors from the SMB logo itself. Like it's this one, I guess. And other thing I configured, like updated, was to get it. Oh yeah, the responsiveness of the sidebar. Like if we move the screen smaller, the sidebar automatically hides itself. And the last thing I did was to automatically load all the test results and the environment details and test specification on load of when we show the chart. Like earlier we was required to click the buttons, then this test specification or environment detail will show up. But now as the page load up, we will come with test specification and environment details. That was it.
Yeah, did we made a decision that the test specification and environment details won't be a tab on the single page?
Like we want it to be open when the page loaded, right?
or everything open at the same time, so that every information is visible to the user without, they
Oh.
can choose themselves to hide. It can be any expandable menu. But for the first time they go on the screen, all the information should be visible to them without any further click, like on scroll.
Yeah, but I think we also like discussed tab-like feature in the like switching tab-like feature in the dashboard. So I thought I implemented that, but yeah, that can be done. Like we can add the environment details and it opens below.
No. Let's take someone else opinion on it, so that uh, whether the tab, this tab thing should be there, or uh, everything should be visible on the same page. I voted for everything because there is only one test at one time. The time when the tabs were implemented, it was because we were loading 6-7 tests at the same time and showing results of all of them at the same time. So we want to just show smaller information. Don't want to overload the user. So
Mhm.
so Lee or someone else, if you have some other suggestions.
I'd love to hear from anyone else. My vote would be for tabs. I mean, you could optionally make it like, actually, let's not even bother. Like, yeah, just tabs. Like I was going to say, you could optionally make it so that they can show all of it at one time. But like, we need to work on the actual tests and different types. We need to work on other things other than.
Yeah, that is also true. So make the thing functional, then work on, making it more. So
Okay.
Just one minor thing would be to indicate which one is clicked, right?
Oh yeah.
Like a slight color change or something, so that it's understandable which one we are on.
Okay.
Any other feedback? Yeah, actually, I'll say this since Natalia and Maxi are here. And since we're on the cusp of having a convenient way to deploy Istio with a Spire configuration, I think that makes a perfect, unless others see it differently, I think that makes a perfect deployment scenario to have here and start to have those results from the CNCF labs published. Maxi, Natalia, what do you think? Are you ready for that, or?
So I'm not familiar with the dashboard, but how does it work? You kind of publish your performance profile there, and then it runs on CNCF server and share the results in this website, kind of something like that.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. Yeah, okay. You captured it pretty well. The way that it's working in this moment is there's a service mesh performance maintainer from Intel, Xin Huang, and then another contributor, Hirsch Delan, who they're kind of active in the performance channel in the Slack workspace. They've taken a GitHub action that has mesh that basically it's a meshery GitHub action that they've written to run different performance tests or different scenarios, different deployments of different applications, different service meshes under different apps, and then different performance tests. And what they've done is, so we've gotten access to the CNCF labs, which is an Equinix data center somewhere. Right now, I think it's just one, but we have access to geographically dispersed data centers. So they've got a couple of, so what they've done is they've taken and they're using that GitHub action as a self-hosted runner. So the GitHub action, so GitHub is controlling the schedule by which these tests are performed, but the hardware that's being used or the tests themselves are running on bare metal systems in Equinix data center. And those results are being captured, being sent to Meshery Cloud as they're done.
Okay.
And then they're real time, as you refresh this page, they're being pulled and displayed here. So right now it would be like going to that GitHub action that's scheduled and just adding a new type of, but tomorrow, or like the system is set up such that if this is something that the goal had always been that each individual service mesh would take, they would be self-reporting. They would be running these tests and self-reporting into the same system. And so all of that is in place, all those mechanics. So all that we would need to do to have, if Maxi or Natalia, or if you're running tests and you'd like for them to be shown here, Pranav Singh is on the call. All we need to do is identify the user, the Meshery user whose tests that you would like to have exposed. And then you can self-report in that way. So,
okay, and what do you need to define a profile? Do you need a pattern and a set of steps or something? So
yeah, a great question. In Meshery UI, it's the exact same. So it's the exact same thing. And you go into Meshery UI, you go to the performance area, and you click to create. You fill in those fields. That's it. That's the
okay.
That you can actually click to download that, and then that spec, that JSON that you download, it is compliant with the SM.
Okay, and then on the other side, you need a Helm chart or design or something that deploys the actual infrastructure that is being tested.
Yeah,
right?
we just covered it. I mean, other than other than the bare metal provisioning of the operating system, and then the provisioning of Kubernetes, which is already, the thing that we just covered with the Helm chart being imported as an app, like Meshery Meshery does the rest from there with provisioning the service mesh, and then sample apps too. So it's just an amazing tool, Meshery. I mean, it's just, I don't know. You just have to stub your toe on a couple of bugs, squash them as you go, and then wipe off your shoe, keep going. But yeah, no. But in all seriousness, this has been like a goal for the last year and a half, is to be able to get to a point where this conversation is a real conversation, and the plumbing is there, and yeah, I would love to see that happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I guess as soon as we have the Istio, the service mesh pattern Ashish is working on, we can get the performance profile and get this published.
Totally.
Awesome. Cool.
Subedy, good steps. Looks like you've got another customer soon.
Yeah, happy to have you. Yeah, that was my time. Stop sharing.
Thank you, Subedy, for sharing. Moving on, Yash with the updates on the restructuring.
Yeah, let me share my screen. So I hope my screen is visible. So most of you would know that we are restructuring Meshery UI for incorporating Redux and MUI 5. So if anyone want to get started, here's some links you would love to follow, and updates on the restructuring branch where we are now. So I made some changes on the dashboard. I also have an open PR for it, and some changes and in my new lifecycle page. It still needs a lot of work, but I made a basic structure for it, and just made a notification bar here. Some other people, other contributors are also working, like Shahbaz or on the context switcher. Shahbaz, do you want to give a quick demo on it, or should I play the video on this?
I think it would be better if you play the video.
Okay. Okay.
I just needed to add the context switcher. So, like, do you have any other suggestions in improving the UI of the context switcher?
Like, did the switcher open from middle of the top page?
No, I think a little bit to the right, I think so.
Like in the current implementation, we open the switcher from just below the switcher, like, right? We click it and it opens
Okay.
just below it.
So I think it should be in the middle, right?
Like a drop down.
Yeah, it should be like a drop down. Like now it's looking like another field coming from another part of the screen.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I will update that.
Yeah, while you're doing refactoring those things and creating a new UI, make sure that you are using just functional components wherever possible. And
Yeah.
secondly, make smaller components. Like if you are able to make smaller components, like however the number goes, it's great because you can reuse it in future. I mean, yeah, it may take time and bit of focus to do it, but yeah, that's the beauty.
Yeah. Thanks for the suggestion.
Thank you.
I think that was the thing for my side.
And Abhinav, do you want to share your updates on this?
Yeah, I can share.
Yeah.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
So I just added this user avatar that would open the menu, and for this I created the Redux slices and action creators and use functional components. I added this new file for the avatar.
So you are,
and I removed that make styles from that MUI 4 version 4.
So yeah, that's great.
So you are not using make styles and just styled API,
No.
right?
No, for this file I haven't used make styles, and the make styles is used in this header. I haven't touched this styles. I haven't touched this style since my goal was to add that user avatar.
By the way,
I removed some classes that were used in that avatar.
Okay. Yeah. So secondly, avatar URL is coming from Google itself, like whatever the provider is.
No. Currently the the currently what the provider is. Let me show you from where I'm fetching the user. It calls this URL and update the user in the Redux.
Yeah, so user will have those photo URL and different things that you can use. Yeah, by the way, different from this topic, I just want to also add that make styles is not gonna be the go-to thing in future. So use styled APIs wherever possible. So, yeah. I think Makestyle also lost its priority in MUI 5. So when you have styled API as well as Makestyles and having the same styles, then styled API will only get applied and Makestyles will get rejected. So just to get away of the future bugs from MUI V5 or V6, V7. So since Makestyles is deprecating, so we should not be using it. It's just one comment that I want to make.
Yeah.
So we are future proof. We will be future proof.
Okay, thank you, Abhinav. So that's all from me for now.
All right. Thank you guys for sharing your updates. Moving on, we have Nithish. Nithish, would you like to share your topic with us?
Okay, I'll be quick. Let me share my screen. So basically, I've done some refactoring in Meshery server and Meshkit. It affects. Okay, it's actually best if you look at this PR, because I've kind of described like what are the changes that what are the functional changes that this PR introduces, and what are the and why they are done. So to put it simply, like the hope is that like after this PR, like we have been facing some inconsistencies with the way let's say like sometimes like NATs would not be connected properly, and sometimes you would not be able to get the status of the controllers properly, and yeah, like some inconsistencies. So the reasons, and we've actually spent quite a bit of time trying to debug it, and every time like the issue is different. So the reason for that is at least like according to me, is that there was no transparency in the way that we have written the code. So if you want to look at like where a specific logic for a particular thing is, then if someone is new to the code base, it'd be very difficult for him to navigate through the code base because of the way that it's being written. So, and also there were other issues regarding GraphQL subscriptions where after a point, like it became very hard for us to manage the channels that we are using to establish subscriptions. So that also became a bit of a pain. So we introduced a broadcaster, which didn't go well. So that didn't actually solve the issue. So I've taken a a bit of a different approach here, rather than rather than trying to juggle with the so many channels at the same time. So I won't be able to talk about every single change that I've made because of the time constraints. So I encourage you guys to look into this PR if you're interested. Yeah, this is regarding the Meshery server PR, and the other one's in Meshkit. So this essentially the main gist of it is that like I've introduced an interface to handle the controllers to basically like we have three controllers in Meshery: Meshery operator, Meshery broker, and Meshery. So as I said, like we have been like the logic for like how to deploy an operator and how to get the status of an operator, those were not very transparent. So I've basically implemented an interface over here which is pretty generic. So in the future, like there are some considerations and there are some improvements that we can obviously do, but this is sort of like the first iteration of how we would want this to be. So it basically has these methods on them, and further, like we actually have all the three controllers defined over here, and the logic for them as well as to how to deploy them, how to get the status, and all those stuff are also defined here. And as I said, like after having a discussion, like we concluded that like there are some, obviously this would not be the ideal thing in the sense like in the future we would be moving it to the Meshery operator, but yeah, we are getting there step by step. So this sort of like a first iteration of what would be, I don't know, 100 steps, but yeah, that's it. If you guys are interested, do check out this, and if you have any suggestions or any comments you want to make, then you're welcome to.
Yeah. Secondly, there is a design spec also, right? Linked with it.
Well, I've actually have to do some consolidation. Like it's, yeah, I'll do that, and I'll send out the link in the public channel.
Thank you.
Any other feedback on that? Okay, I guess not. So we are at time. We are 2 minutes past time. So We'll discuss these topics next week. Sorry to the people who couldn't share today. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week then. Bye all. Thanks for joining.
Bye everyone. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye everyone.